everyone. My name is Kathy Nguyen, and I would like to introduce you to my group, the Hot Chip People. The Hot Chip People are Brian Burguin, Matt Hellesen, James Martinez, Robert Segarra, and me, Kathy. Our presentation is called FedEx Freight Labor Struggle Saga, which will focus on FedEx Freight's high employee turnover rate and provide a set of recommendations that could bring down the high turnover rate. Before we jump into our case study of FedEx, I am going to give you the latest status of the trucking industry, an overview of the driver demographics, and a brief overview of FedEx Freight. Next slide, please. How is the trucking industry doing? 71% of domestic freight are moved by truckers. Trucking is basically a thankless job. When things are going well, you don't even notice that they're there. But when consumer goods stop making it to the grocery shelves, that's when you realize you need truck drivers. This was evident during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the trucking industry entered the pandemic with a shortage of roughly 61,000 drivers, and panic buying caused a surge in demand for essential goods. Trucks and supplies are currently sitting idle. 20 to 25% of gas tank trucks are parked because there are not enough qualified truck drivers, which is 15% more than last year. This is why we keep hearing about supply chain delays. Trucker shortage can lead to other issues, such as higher prices for gas and other essential items. Why is that? Because truck drivers are needed to deliver gas to gas stations and goods to retailers. According to the president and CEO of the American Trucking Association, more than 1 million truckers are needed over the next 10 years. Next slide, please. Who's driving the trucks? 90% of truck drivers are men. The median age is 46, so I guess we can say older men. 7% of truckers have bachelor's degrees, and 10% of truckers are veterans. Who's not really driving? Apparently women, young people, and people of color. Next slide, please. FedEx Corp is the name of the company and brand, managed by Chairman and CEO Frederick W. Smith. There are 6 divisions, or networks as FedEx calls them: FedEx Express, FedEx Services, FedEx Ground, FedEx Freight, FedEx Office, and FedEx Logistics. Each division has its own CEO or co-CEOs. Today, we will be focusing on FedEx Freight, which is managed by President and CEO Lance Moll. FedEx Freight is headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee. Some interesting facts about that: Memphis was chosen because of its central location in the US and because the nearest airport rarely closed for bad weather. To give you a brief history, the idea of FedEx was originally conceived by current Chairman and CEO Fred Smith while he was an undergrad at Yale in 1965. In 1973, his company officially began operations under the name Federal Express. In 1998, Federal Express became FedEx Corp as we know it today. 3 years later, in 2001, FedEx Corp acquired American Freightways and created FedEx Freight. With name recognition like FedEx, what could go wrong? I will now hand off the presentation to James Martinez, who will tell you what problem FedEx is currently facing.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Martinez. Nice to meet you all. Thank you very much, Kathy, for that lovely intro. So as Kathy mentioned, I'm going to be going over the main problem that we're going to be analyzing in this presentation about what is really happening with FedEx and what is the main issue. So as we see, the problem is that FedEx is experiencing unprecedented high demand for its services due to the increase of e-commerce shopping because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but they're also facing a high turnover rate with its employees, which is causing, as you'll see, a major disaster in their supply chain. So we can look directly at the company's financial report that they released earlier this fall to kind of see where the struggles are beginning to show their head. So in September, financials were released showing an 11% decrease in profits for FedEx. The CEO went on record to state that the impact of constrained labor markets remains the biggest issue facing the company and mainly responsible for this decrease in profits. If we look at the exact places where cost has been going up in order to offset the profits that they're currently making, you're going to see that it's going to be in specifically those overhead costs of overtime and extra transport costs caused by the constrained labor market making them have to pay their current employees that they already have very high wages, more than the average person in the truck driving industry or in the freight industry, because they want to keep those employees. And also they're having to pay a lot of overtime, as I mentioned, because they simply just do not have enough employees to cover these things. So it's really causing them to lose a lot of profits and just accumulate costs where they don't need to be accumulating costs in the foreseeable future. So we kind of dive into what this labor shortage impact is doing on kind of the warehouse, like freight, like individual level. We can kind of see like a problem that one sort of facility was having is that they're having 65% of the required workers to process packages only. That means that they're missing another 35% that they could be using to process all the packages, but instead they're only able to get the 65% of it because they simply do not have enough required workers to be able to process these packages. So what is FedEx doing as a temporary solution to kind of fix this problem? What you're seeing is what they're doing is they're diverting 25% of the packages to other centers. Now this is very bad for them in the long run because what they're having to do is add more trucking routes. So they're already overworking their truck drivers that they already have. And on top of that, they're having to hire third-party transport companies to kind of pick up the slack wherever they're not able to push their workers to work. So on average, you're looking at about 600,000 packages being rerouted every single day. As I mentioned earlier, placing a major strain on operations of FedEx and FedEx. So why is this important to FedEx? As you can see, obviously when you're rerouting all these packages and you're having these supply chain issues, that's going to be bad. If you look in the future for what the freight industry and the parcel industry is looking at, you're going to see that according to Bloomberg, parcel market is expected to expand 10% by 2026. So as you see, the supply chain disruptions created by labor shortage is not going to be a healthy way to accommodate all this growth. They're not going to be able to keep diverting packages and spending all these outrageous costs on overtime and extra transport by using third-party services. It's just going to lose a financial ruin for FedEx. So next I want to hand it over to my teammate Matt, who's going to kind of take us into looking at one of the alternatives that we can do to kind of turn FedEx around and not go down this path.
Thank you, James. My name is Matt Hellesen, and I'm going to offer a solution to FedEx to solve their employee retention problem. What we're suggesting is the implementation of employee profit sharing plan. So what is employee profit sharing? Profit sharing is an incentive plan that provides payments to employees based on the company's profitability. Before we make an argument for profit sharing, let's take a quick look at what FedEx is currently doing that leads to such a high employee turnover rate. So first, let's look at what FedEx's current compensation to employees is. FedEx is currently starting workers at $18 an hour with a sign-on bonus. This has made them very competitive in the marketplace for attracting new workers. FedEx acknowledges how important their workforce is to their success. In their annual 10K report, FedEx's human resources department stated that their greatest resource is their people, and that their success as a company depends on their ability to recruit, retain, develop, and provide advancement opportunities for their employees. So why aren't higher starting wages and a sign-on bonus, why aren't they effective in employee retention? The answer to that is that they're front-loaded incentives. FedEx is currently focusing on just trying to get employees in the front door. Due to this labor shortage, that's their main goal, is to just keep bringing in new staff. These incentives aren't designed to retain, develop, or provide advancement opportunities for their new hires. This leads to us proposing profit sharing as one solution to shrink FedEx's turnover rate. Next slide, please. Benefits for the employees. Profit sharing is a way to incentivize employees to take actions that increase the company's profits so that they can earn more as well. The more profitable a company is, the greater the benefit is to the employee. This will lead to a culture of ownership. What people have found is when employees are rewarded based on their contributions to a company, employees feel more like owners. And as owners, or as feeling like owners, employees have more incentive to increase the company's profitability. Profit sharing plan is typically an employee-sponsored retirement plan where the employer contributes to the employee's retirement account. This is a benefit to the employee so that instead of the employee themselves having to fund their own retirement individually, the company now can contribute substantial amounts of money into the employee's retirement account. Next slide, please. Now let's look at the benefits to FedEx. The first benefit of profit sharing for the company is to decrease its tax liability. To do this, they take pre-tax dollars from the company and distribute it into an individual's retirement account, decreasing the overall tax liability for the company by decreasing its profitability on the books. The next benefit is implementing a vesting schedule. A vesting schedule is a schedule that gives an employee ownership of a percentage of their funds in their account over a period of time. A typical vesting schedule that has been utilized in these companies has been a 5-year vesting schedule. In the example of a 5-year vesting schedule, an individual would accumulate 20% ownership per year up to the 5th year, in which they would have 100% ownership of the funds that have been contributed to their retirement account. This gives the employee incentive to stay on long-term, at least through their vesting schedule, to maximize the benefit of profit sharing. Lastly, profit sharing has shown to lead to less quits and fewer layoffs within companies implementing this. The less quits is due to, as we have talked about, vesting schedules and employees wanting to stick around to maximize the benefit of the profit sharing plan, as well as reaping a larger reward during years of high profitability in the company. The fewer layoffs come from when a company is less profitable, their liability of compensation to their employees actually decreases, as a large chunk of the compensation is the profit sharing, and as profits decrease, the payment to their employees also decreases, leading to the smaller liability and fewer layoffs. Due to these reasons, we believe that long-term incentives through a profit sharing program would help curb FedEx's employee turnover rate. And now I'm going to throw it over to Brian for another alternative on solving the turnover rate.
Thank you, Matt, for that introduction. My name is Brian Burguin, and I'm going to be going over alternative number 2 with you today, which is going to go over the application of reinforcement theory for FedEx, which we believe is going to reduce the high turnover rate seen throughout the last few years by increasing the current employee satisfaction company-wide. We believe this is important because, as FedEx mentioned in their annual report, our people are our greatest asset and stand at the heart of our success. And we agree with this statement and believe that these people that have contributed so much to the success should be rewarded for all they've given to the company. And we believe this should be done in a monetary fashion. However, we don't believe a direct monetary payout in salary specifically would help us in the long run. We believe it would be a short-term fix to the high turnover rate seen by FedEx, and believe that the new pay for performance aspects that are introduced by the reinforcement theory would be the proper way to proceed. Some of these are mentioned here in this slide as commissions beyond sales to customers, rewarding leadership effectiveness, rewarding new goals, pay for knowledge workers and teams, as well as skilled pay for workers company-wide. We believe these rely on key metrics for FedEx, such as average delivery time, customer satisfaction, managing skills, cycle time, team metrics, and developmental pay that would further help recognize and acknowledge all of the hard work and success of some of the smaller groups of employees throughout FedEx. Continuing on to reinforcement, we believe that this is reinforcement theory believes that people want to know that they contributed to the success of company and be awarded, acknowledged, and recognized for this hard work. We agree with this, as well as the Luthens and Stakhovic article, Reinforce for Performance, who did a study on if any variables systematically moderate the relationship between reinforcement contingencies and performance. And through this study, determined that 17%, there was a 17% average increase in performance for companies that use these reinforcement theory pay procedures in their company that focused on acknowledging and recognizing many of their employees company-wide, and determined and concluded that the reinforcers of attention with monetary performance and feedback mixed together produced the strongest effects on overall task performance, which led to increased employee satisfaction, which we believe in FedEx's case would decrease the turnover rate seen throughout the past few years. We believe it is important for FedEx and agree with Professor Stephen Sommer, who at the time was working at Pepperdine University and is now working here at Cal State Fullerton, in his article with Professor Rocky, the ABCs of effective feedback, that people are information-seeking creatures who want to know how they are doing. We agree with this, and we believe this is very important in the work environment and something that FedEx directly lacks. We believe that recognition and acknowledging employees through monetary reinforcement would lead to improved work, increased company satisfaction, and reduced turnover rate, which would inevitably help FedEx company-wide. Thank you. Now I'm going to be passing this on to Robert, who's going to discuss some recommendations for FedEx.
Thank you so much, Brian. So my name is Robert Segarra, and I'm going to be speaking about our recommendations as a whole. Overall, we have shown that the trucking industry has been experiencing unprecedented demand and their demand for their services and is experiencing extremely large turnover rates, both in the part-time employees and the full-time employees. We also spoke a bit about how the parcel market as a whole has been increasing and is set to increase by 10% by 2026. And if FedEx wants to maintain their competitive advantage within the market, they are not only going to have to address the increase in demand, but they're going to have to address the underlying conditions that affect turnover as well. So our recommendation has 3 factors to it. One of them being the improvement of workplace culture, the improvement of contextual performance, and improving feedback within the organization. Firstly, we'll speak about the improvement in workplace culture. By reinforcing the workplace environment, we are giving rewards for the employees that perform well and showcase their skills, while also we're not demonizing the employees that aren't doing as well. Instead, we're giving them incentives to actually try to perform a bit better. This is one aspect of how we are going to address workplace culture in a way that facilitates employees giving employee referrals and staying on longer. The next aspect is we're trying to improve contextual performance. There are many aspects of a job that require an employee to do things that cannot be directly translated to their production. This could be things like mapping out their route in order to perform a bit better. This could be about mentally preparing for the day. And by reinforcing this kind of behavior using incentives, maybe something like what Matt was speaking about, or just improving their contextual performance by giving more adequate rewards like time off or extra breaks throughout the day, the employees are able to address not only partially the labor shortage, but they're going to be able to address the reasons for the increase in the market. They're going to be able to deliver more packages in a more time-efficient manner, which is going to help overall with FedEx's competitive advantage within the market. And lastly, we're going to speak about improving feedback. In order for an employee to thrive in this new work environment, they're going to require feedback in order to know exactly what they're doing wrong and know exactly what they're doing correctly. And by giving them this reinforcement using rewards, we can provide that feedback in a manner that isn't as structured and as time-consuming as a formal sit-down meeting with their manager. And in that aspect, it reduces the stress and pressure on the employee when they're getting feedback from a manager. And using that, we believe it will also affect the workplace culture indirectly, and thus will help provide more opportunities for employees to bring others into the market as well to help FedEx with their operation. Thank you.